Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. We're looking at Psalm 14. Psalm 14 is an interesting psalm, as David, of course, is the writer, as we learn from the title, and he also wrote this song to be given to the chief musician. And by the way, about 53 psalms have this title, and these psalms were meant to be read and sung in the great congregation, especially as a song, because the musician was going to lead the congregation in music and they would sing. And this is one that would be sung. Now, interestingly, you would think about when you read this psalm, why would you sing this psalm? The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Well, it's a reminder to us that it's a very foolish thing to forget God, not to think of God. And then at the very end of this psalm, the psalmist is reminding the people that God still sees what's going on, and God is with the righteous, and God will save them from the foolish, corrupt people who are taking advantage of them. And you see that all in this psalm. Now, also, this psalm was quoted in Romans chapter 3 by the Apostle Paul to show the corruptness of the world. We don't know the occasion on which this psalm was written by David, but interesting, it's a universal psalm because all the world has become corrupt. There is none that seeks good, and all the world is guilty before God. Paul points out in Romans chapter 3. So this is a very interesting psalm. The practical atheist, he doesn't say out loud, you'll notice, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. So he goes to church, he goes through the motions of religion and believing in God, but in his heart, he lives as if there's no God. He acts as if there is no God, and he's become corrupt. Now, chapter 53 repeats this psalm almost verbatim. Psalm 53 and Psalm 14 are almost exactly the same words. And you say, why did God put it in there twice? Because it shows us the reason people don't want to believe in God is because of their wickedness, their evilness, their corruption, their vileness, their filthiness as they get away from God, their debauchery. They become perverted, as Romans chapter 1 says, in their minds. And so then they cannot even think of God or future judgment. So you see that here in Psalm 14. And God wants to remind us of that. You don't want to become this way. You don't want to go down that path. You start doing what you want to do, living like you want to live, and you become more and more corrupt. And that's what happens to a culture and a society and a nation. And the leaders of a nation that don't want to acknowledge the reality of an eternal creator God and start believing in evolution and teaching it as a fact rather than the biblical view of God's creating everything, you and me, and we're created in his image. So let's read Psalm 14. It's a very short psalm, 7 verses. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek God. They have all turned aside. They have together become corrupt. There is none who does good, no, not one. Have all the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat at my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord? There they are in great fear, for God is with the generation of the righteous. You shame the counsel of the poor, but the Lord is his refuge. Oh, that the salvation of Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord brings back the captivity of his people, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. Oh, how I love the ending of this psalm, because one day God will restore the fortunes of his people, Israel. And I believe David here is even speaking of the millennial reign of Christ. When Jesus comes back, he restores and brings back Israel to the land and gives them their promised inheritance that he promised to Abraham. And so he concludes this psalm with, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. And my friend, I can put my name in there. Let Michael rejoice and be glad. You can rejoice and be glad, because in the end, God takes care of the corrupt, abominable people that say in their heart, there is no God. You can trust our God. He'll be there when you're in court. He'll shame the counsel of the ungodly as he takes care of his righteous people, because he's always with them. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.